How dare you tell a student that they can't talk about their mother?
Female only gym, and then they've put a little star, which means for anyone who self-identifies as female. I mean, how?
Hi everyone, I'm here with Connie Shaw once again, and we're looking at a thread you did, Connie, about St. John's University.
Yeah, so this is York St. John's University's trans inclusion policies. So, for example, the first one we're looking at here is them explaining that the toilets and showers in all accommodation areas are gender neutral. An individual's gender identity can be taken into consideration when they are allocated accommodation. So this is one of the most concerning things here, is that if a person is transitioning or intending to transition, mixed gender accommodation should be offered to them. Trans students should also be given the option of living in a single-sex flat of the gender they identify with. For example, a trans woman in an all-woman flat.
Jeez.
So that means not having single-sex flats, because if a male is in an all-woman flat, that's no longer a single-sex flat.
So obvious to us. It's obvious to us.
It's like, I know. But the interesting thing I hear is that it says if a person transitioning or intending to transition, they need to be kept in the mixed gender flat. But as soon as you have transitioned, like, what do they mean by transitioned? Because we know that only 5 to 10% of trans women actually get surgery. I think for like genital surgery. So what do they mean by transitioned?
And that's really sinister too, because it's kind of encouraging people to take experimental drugs and potentially sterilize themselves.
And, I thought that your genitals didn't define your gender. So why would you need to do anything to your body to become a fully transitioned trans person?
It kind of echoes what you were saying earlier in our conversation. Just, trans women are women, therefore let them in. If you have anything else to say, you're a bigot. But then you take a photo of that guy in the bathroom and they say, oh, but like he's not making an effort. And then how much effort do you have to make to qualify as a trans person? I thought your genitals didn't define your gender. What if this poor trans woman has only begun her journey? Are you going to ridicule her for like not having grown her hair out yet? Or
yeah, exactly. That there is a complete violation of female students' rights if they wanted to live in a female flat. I mean, and then this next thing here is just very similar to some of the things that James Esses has pointed out within the civil service. They're saying that you shouldn't use terms such as mankind, because basically they're saying it's sexist to say the word man. You should use humankind or humanity. Layman's terms, because some people I guess they would say some people, if their first language isn't English, they wouldn't understand that layman's terms means plain English. I mean, that's just a metaphor. So are they saying that no metaphor ever? What about students who are doing creative writing as their course? Are they not allowed to use metaphors?
And are they just giving this guidance as, just kind of terms to avoid, like on campus, like while you speak to people and everything?
Yeah. I mean, they're here where it says terms to avoid sex change or sex operation. They are saying you should say transition or transitioning. They're literally admitting that you can't change sex, because if they were changing sex, why is it an issue to say sex change? So on one hand, they're saying it's a single sex space to include trans women in a female only space. That's still single sex, but you can't say sex change. So they know that they're not changing sex. But I know that they know, like, surely they know this, but they're admitting it, and they're just
I think all of the kind of cognitive work just goes on at a language level. I think that they just don't even go beyond that. But what's funny here is also they're saying transitioning is kind of equivalent to sex change operation, whereas someone would say like, oh, but do you have to get the operation? It's like, oh no, like there's no one way to be trans. But they're basically saying instead of sex change operation, you should say.
From the other side, the thing where they're saying if you're intending to transition or transitioning and you haven't finished transitioning, someone could say that's transphobic because it's so hard to transition. So from both sides, I don't think either trans rights activists or women's rights activists would be happy with that.
Yeah, it's almost like the more we try to control the way we speak, the more offended people get, which is obviously what happens. And then this one, I just can't cope with it. So this one says terms to use with careful consideration. Brother, sister, mother. I'm like, are they honestly for real? Alumnus, like, what?
To be fair, actually, that last one I did find quite helpful, because I find the word alumni quite confusing. I didn't realize that there was an alumnus and alumna to describe female and male alumni.
Who honestly goes around every other day being like alumni, alumna? It's like, are you honestly considering that people give a shit about all of this stuff? And then, like, how dare you tell a student that they can't talk about their mother? Like, what if you had a mother who died and then you're not allowed to say mother?
I know. I guess they would say, when you're talking to someone else, would you say, how, you need to ask your mother, and you don't know whether they have a mother,
or if their mother identifies as a cow or something. This is a good one. What am I looking at here?
So it says female only gym, and then they've put a little star, and then down says, which means for anyone who self-identifies as female. I mean, how some of these things I can sort of forgive people for not realizing that what they're doing is completely contradictory, but it's almost like this has to be, the person who made this has to be a man who identifies as a woman, because surely any woman would understand that is therefore not a female only gym. It would that has to be made by someone who is desperate to get into a female space that they know that they shouldn't be in. But to be fair, I also would not be surprised if a female made that, because young women, for some reason, are the most ardent supporters of this whole thing.
I mean, Sal Grover said to me in our podcast that, historically, fighting for women's rights has been met with far too much opposition from women, and it's so true. I think there's a lot of women who perhaps, and we see this from the kind of liberal elite type who, maybe have a lower chance of being affected by this because they may not have to run away to a refuge center. I'm not saying that doesn't happen to middle class women, but maybe the chances are lower, or be in prison, for example. As well, in relation to Sal Grover, she was talking about other cases of women who've been through the same thing as her, and they kind of similar to what you said about, you've heard other stories from students who've been cancelled by unis, and they've just kind of thrown their hands up and been like, okay, there's nothing I can do, crack on. But she said that most of the other stories she's heard about of women who decided not to take this situation to court are women who own female-only gyms in Australia, and they have been, attacked by activists for not letting a man join. And instead of going the Sal Grover route, which is obviously not for the faint-hearted, they have had to concede and allow males and trans-identified man into the gym. So it's awful. And I think if they really wanted what they're advertising here to depict what they're advertising, they should put one, nice looking woman like they've had, and then one like AGP, and then people would realize what they're getting in for,
This is really common. The Bristol uni, I know, has the same. I don't know how many other unis have it, but if two of them that I've seen have it, and they're just people who've sent it to me, I can only imagine how many universities have things like that. So this next thing, people told me that I got this wrong, but I'm not sure. Okay. So some of our courses and positions require a closure and barring service DBS check. A sensitive application team if you do not want to reveal details of your previous identity. Reading that makes it seem like if you have transitioned and you were a man and now you're a woman, that a DBS check goes through all of your previous convictions, who you are, an address. I mean, this just looks like this is safeguarding, and we're making it harder, whether or not they end up being able to have access to all of the details, because some people were telling me that, the police still get to know all of the details, but the actual team who go through the application just don't get to know whether you've transitioned or not. But what if this DBS check is for someone who wants to work in a female-only space? Like, if someone who's applying for a job that is to work in that female-only gym, obviously the female-only gym isn't female-only anyway, how does it work if you've transitioned and you've not told them that you are actually male, which would be outing yourself, say they did actually have a female space, then that's not a DBS check doing its job.
Yeah, no, but the whole thing is a mess. It's very confusing. Even without this, I've heard that, you know, because a DBS check is linked to your name. So if you change your name, I don't think there's any provisions in place right now for a DBS check to say like, oh, at this point they changed their name, you know?
What I just don't understand is why we're putting, regardless of who might still see the whole picture, why are we making it more difficult in any way for any reason to carry out safeguarding in the name of inclusion? Like, why is it that these people get to have some sort of, make it more difficult? We should be making safeguarding more transparent and easy. Why is there any reason why someone should be able to, for whatever reason, hide certain parts of their identity to whoever, regardless of whether, like, why are we making these processes harder?
Yeah.
Even if
and
the
it's
right people
just quite sinister that it's like previous identity. So then it kind of like, I think you kind of said this, it implies that you could be working with someone for months and then not know that they're actually a man, even though everyone would know.